North Korea is a country wrapped in mystery, isolation, and secrecy. Almost all aspects of its citizens' lives are regulated with an iron hand. It is known for its strange norms and events, from the fact that North Koreans do not use sanitary products to a leaked image, implying that students openly engage in intimacy in a classroom. In this video, we will explore strange things that only exist in North Korea. The cult of personality and the eternal leaders. Before delving into the deepest secrets of this nation, we must understand its origin. The cult of personality and the eternal leaders are the center of power in North Korea. North Koreans live solely under the law and leadership of a single family, the Kim family, from which Kim Il-sung, the country's founder, emerged. Kim Il-sung established the country in 1948 and created his own rules. North Koreans declare themselves a democratic country and hold elections every 5 years, but they do the opposite. What's democratic about voting for only one person? Strange, isn't it? Let's explore why North Koreans are determined to maintain the Kim family in power. The cult of personality and eternal leaders serves several purposes. Firstly, it strengthens the leader's control over power by fostering loyalty and fear. Any form of questioning the leader's authority is harshly suppressed. You must obey and conform, as the lack of sanitary products exemplifies. Warning, this might give you chills. Women in North Korea don't know what a sanitary towel is and have never seen one before. Despite sanitary towels being invented in 1888, due to the country's isolation, many things might have changed. However, according to testimonies of women lucky enough to leave the country, they used rags and old towels, constantly washing them for reuse the following month. It seems very unhygienic and extremely inconvenient. We're not living in the golden age. Women should have the right to feel protected and clean. Next, let's examine the romantic life of North Koreans. You'll be surprised by what I'm about to tell you. The romantic life of North Koreans is completely different from what you might imagine. They don't go to the movies together or engage in any form of dating activities except strolling through the streets with hands still. As always, their romantic life is heavily influenced by the unique social and political context of the country. The North Korean regime tightly controls interactions between citizens, including romantic relationships. No formal dates or public displays of affection are allowed. Social gatherings are always monitored, so citizens tend to be cautious about engaging in romantic activities due to potential surveillance and imminent punishment. Cross-border dating is discouraged, as the regime considers relationships with foreigners a potential security risk. Therefore, the romantic life of North Koreans remains difficult and controlled, reflecting the regime's emphasis on maintaining strict social order and ideological conformity. Furthermore, imagine living in a country where you can't wear your favorite jeans or your football team's jersey. That's what happens in North Korea, where leader Kim Jong-un has banned the use of blue jeans and Western clothing, considering them a form of American influence and perception. This ban also extends to imported garments and t-shirts with messages. Citizens must dress according to state norms that promote the use of traditional Korean clothing like hanbok, reflecting the leadership's emphasis on cultural heritage and nationalism. State authorities monitor and punish those who violate the dress code, who may face fines, public criticism, or even imprisonment. This way of controlling clothing has generated various reactions in the international community, often criticized for violating personal freedoms and human rights. Many argue that the prohibition helps preserve a unique North Korean identity, while others see it as an oppressive measure seeking to suppress individuality and foster a culture of conformity. What do you think? This is not surprising at all, especially for a nation that views its leaders as gods. What need do they have for another god? It is a well-known fact that before seizing total power in 1948, Kim's second son was born to a Christian mother, Kang-bak. He also admitted to attending religious services as a child, finding them boring. Perhaps that's why he ensured that no one in North Korea would be as bored as he was. Due to the Jewish ideology, which promotes self-sufficiency and the cult of personality around the ruling Kim family, the government discourages any form of organized religion. Those who practice their faith face severe persecution. The regime only promotes a cult of personality around its leaders, especially Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, who are revered almost as deities. Citizens are obliged to participate in various rituals and ceremonies praising the leaders, and any perceived lack of respect or devotion is harshly punished. Although there are some technically unknown religious organizations to those outside their walls, these organizations are closely monitored and operate under strict state supervision. But Christianity is taboo, and anyone practicing it faces severe persecution. This is because it is associated with foreign influence and seen as a potential threat to regime control. Despite all these restrictions, I firmly believe that there are clandestine religious practices and believers. Humans are not robots and can be cunning, but they must be very secretive to avoid death punishment or the punishment of 3 generations. Imagine if your uncle stole an apple, and because of his fault, your whole family had to go to jail. Perhaps he regretted it and returned the apple, but it doesn't matter because the punishment extends to the entire family for up to 3 generations. This is especially sad because your elderly parents and your children will also be imprisoned for a crime you had no idea about. This is exactly what happens in North Korea. However, unlike your uncle stealing an apple, the 3-generation prison policy mainly applies to people perceived as enemies of the state or who have committed political crimes. This rule not only holds the accused accountable for their actions, but also extends the punishment to their immediate family, spanning at least 3 generations. The origin of this policy dates back to the early years of the North Korean regime under Kim Il-sung's leadership. It was implemented as a means to consolidate the power of the ruling party and to suppress any potential dissent or opposition by punishing multiple generations of a family. Its intention is to instill fear and discourage any thoughts of rebellion or disloyalty to the state. If a person is accused of a political crime or labeled an enemy of the state, they will not only face severe punishment themselves, but their parents, children, and even grandchildren may also be subjected to imprisonment, forced labor, or exile to remote areas. By holding multiple generations accountable, the regime aims to eradicate any opposition from the root, leaving no room for dissent to grow within families. This policy creates fear, preventing people from expressing any critical opinions for fear of endangering their entire family. So technically, there is no freedom of expression. Of all the rules, this policy has been widely criticized by the international community and human rights organizations for its severe violations of individual rights and its disregard for due process. It has resulted in countless innocent individuals and their families facing unimaginable suffering and difficulty under the oppressive North Korean regime. But North Korea is a planet of its own, so they turn a deaf ear to what Earthlings have to say. Haircuts and personal grooming. When you think of North Korean haircuts, you immediately think of their leader, Kim Jong-un. It's a relief that no one dares to get a haircut like his. Honestly, I don't think anyone would want to in North Korea. Hairstyles and personal grooming are subject to strict control and regulation as part of the country's cultural norms. The government imposes specific guidelines for hairstyles to promote conformity and project a certain image of the ideal citizen. These norms affect men, women, and children alike. Only 28 approved haircuts are allowed, of which only 10 are for men and 18 for women. These laws are enforced through state media, posters, and regular inspections by local authorities. The rules for men's hairstyles in North Korea require short hair with specific rules regarding length, style, and even sideburns. Traditional Korean hairstyles inspired by historical figures and revolutionary leaders are preferred. For example, the Japet style, similar to the former leader Kim Jong-il's haircut, is considered one of the most popular and acceptable options for women. The range of approved hairstyles is somewhat broader, but they must still maintain an adorable appearance. Very long hair is usually not preferred, and there are specific rules on how to style and adorn it. Women are encouraged to adopt hairstyles perceived as feminine and traditional. Local hair salons play a crucial role in enforcing these grooming standards. They must display posters with images of the approved hairstyles and are obliged to follow government guidelines. Additionally, hairdressers may be required to report clients attempting prohibited haircuts or styles, creating an atmosphere of surveillance and fear. Compliance with grooming standards goes beyond haircuts. North Korean men must remain clean-shaven, and facial hair is generally discouraged unless it has a symbolic purpose, which is rare. Women must also adhere to strict standards of personal grooming and must not show their thighs or cleavage in any way. Makeup should be moderate to maintain a modest and natural appearance. Penalties for not complying with the state's grooming standards can range from fines and public humiliation to more severe punishments such as forced labor or even death. This depends on the severity of the infraction and the political status of the individual involved. By regulating personal appearance, the regime aims to ensure that the population adheres to state ideals and maintains a unified national identity. This strict regulation of haircuts and personal grooming exemplifies the pervasive atmosphere of surveillance and control that permeates various aspects of life in North Korea. There is no television, telephone, or internet connection in North Korea. The strict and ubiquitous rule of no television or internet connection has been a fundamental aspect of government control over information and communication for decades, with the aim of isolating the country from the outside world and closely controlling the narrative presented to its citizens. This highly restrictive policy has been in place for decades, with the goal of isolating the country from the outside world and tightly controlling the narrative presented to its citizens. The regime's decision to prohibit access to television and the internet serves several purposes. Firstly, it allows the government to control the flow of information and restrict access to external influences that may challenge state propaganda. By preventing citizens from accessing foreign media or the internet, authorities maintain tight control over the narrative, ensuring the preservation of the state ideology and, most importantly, the cult of personality surrounding the leaders. This rule also serves to maintain a sense of isolation and unity among citizens. With limited access to the outside world, North Koreans are less likely to be exposed to alternative viewpoints or different ways of life. This is precisely why they are so loyal to their leader and the cult. This rule fosters a sense of loyalty and obedience to the regime. North Korean citizens are conditioned to believe that their leader and their state are the sole providers of information and support. This ensures compliance with the rule. The government employs a sophisticated system of surveillance and censorship. Additionally, unauthorized possession of a device with television or internet access is considered a serious offense, and those caught face severe consequences, including imprisonment or even execution. Despite the isolation, there have been reports of citizens finding creative ways to access foreign media, often using illegal devices or satellite antennas. However, the risks associated with such actions are high, and discovery would lead to dire consequences. Interestingly, North Koreans cannot watch this video. Now is the time for the filtered image. This image raises many questions, as it appears to show high school students openly engaging in intimacy in their classroom. Is this how sexual education is taught in North Korea, especially considering the extreme moral profile they transmit? If this image is real, will it affect the values promoted by North Korea? What do you think? Let me know your opinions in the comments below. Also, check out our other videos displayed on the screen. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to stay updated on all our content.